Hello, Bert Delisle here. Today I'm going to try and make a birdhouse out of this piece of hawthorn. It's a relatively wet piece of wood. It was only taken down a few days ago. This is the end of September, 1st October, so it's probably going to be pretty wet. But the intention is to hollow this out, make a chickadee size hole in it, and we'll give it back to the people that allowed me to come and take some of their wood off of the tree. They had the tree in their yard for probably 65 or 70 years, and they had to take it down because it's getting old. So hopefully we'll be able to give them a birdhouse to remember it by. So without further ado, I'll get set up here, and we'll come back when we're ready to start turning. Okay, we're back here. We've got this log on the lathe. It's about 6.5 inches in diameter. I like to make chickadee houses. The chickadee houses, they like to have at least a 4.5 inch circle to build their nest on. They get 3 or 4 eggs in it, and that gives them lots of room. They like natural wood. Every birdhouse I've made has had tenants in it. I've been making these for about 5 years. People love them, birds love them, so I just keep on making them. This particular piece is a piece of hawthorn, and I'm going to put a tenon on this end, and then I'm going to swap it around, hold it in a set of stronghold jaws, and then we'll proceed to hollow it. So I'll get ready with that and put a tenon on. That looks pretty good. I should fit it up to this tenon here. I've got this special oversized spur drive that I use primarily for doing logs. I drive it in with a hammer, make sure I get a good seat on it. Screws on the chuck, or screws on the spindle. It makes a nice solid holding for logs. Okay, that looks like that should be pretty good. I like to use a stronghold chuck with the number 3 jaws, and I sometimes also use the number 4 jaws to get a nice big tenon on it. But I think for this size log, number 3 jaws will be fine. Now what I like to do in order to get ready to hollow it, I like to put a depth hole in there so I kind of know how deep I'm going. And I use my trusty little handheld drill, mark it off about there. I like to leave about 1 inch or so on the top end so that I got room to face it off and clean it up a little bit. And then I've got enough wood up on the very top so I can drive screws in from the bottom into the roof. So right about there. Turn this lathe down. And we'll just drill a starting hole in here. It makes it so much easier for hollowing when you've got a starting hole. Plus it gives you the depth. And I don't have to drill this hole all the way in at the first. I can hollow out to where that depth is, and then I can drill it in again a little further. Okay dokie, so we'll get set up for hollowing. So I'm using the Vicmark articulated hollowing arm, and I've installed a Rolling Monroe style cutter in it, and I really like it for doing these kind of jobs because it has the carbide, the small carbide round cutter in it, and it has a depth stop so it doesn't get too aggressive, and set it on center or just slightly above, and it seems to peel out the wood fairly easily. So without further ado, let's give this a whirl. Well, that looks like it's cutting like butter, so that's really great. Another little tool I like to use now is this Cindy Drozda's light. She came up with this idea of mounting LEDs on some permanent magnets. So the magnets just fit underneath the tool rest. You can plug this into a power supply and turn the power on. And the beauty of it is that it lets you put light exactly where you need it. And when you're hollowing things like this, it's really nice to be able to see what you're looking at. I can turn the speed up a little bit. Yeah, that looks like it's cutting pretty good, and it looks like the tree's got a lot of color in it there too, so we'll just keep hollowing this out. I like to make a straight edge on the bottom here for a plug. So I've got about a 1/4 inch of material there. That's probably where I'm going to stop for there. It's a 5-inch circle, which is perfect for the birds. So I'm just going to make a straight bore in here, because I'll make a plug that's slightly undersized, and then I'll put in screws from either side on the outside to hold the plug in to allow for cleaning every year. So I'll just straighten this up and then I'll continue boring. I think I have to adjust the angle of my cutter just a little bit. Now that should be better. We'll set the angle so that it's right down on the center. Now it looks like I got a little thin on this side here, but that shouldn't matter. The plug will still go in. I can put in a screw on the either side on the thick side, and this is below the birdhouse, so birdhouse nest, so we're okay. like I'm at the bottom of my depth hole. So I'll just drill a little bit more by hand.
That's about it.
That should be deep enough. Typically, chickadees like to have between 8 and 10 inches or 6 to 10 inches of depth of hollow, so they get in. They like to have their little babies down in the bottom. Okay, that's about 9.5 inches deep, so that's lots. I'll take that to there. Yeah, that's about perfect. That'll be just great. So now I just have to decide where to put the birdhouse hole in it, and we'll see. There's a little bit of a natural depression right here, so I think the wall thickness there is nice. Is nice for that. I'll just put the hole in there. So for the chickadee holes, I like to use an inch and an eighth, inch and a 16th, or inch and an eighth. This one I'll put in inch and an eighth. There you go. Nice little chickadee hole. And there's about 3/4 of an inch of free space on the top here. And what I found watching the chickadees in my area, they'll actually come and take a look at the hole, and they'll pick away a little bit here to make it their own. So whether it's a little too small, they'll chip it out a little bit. I try to make it small enough that we don't get the parasitic birds that'll come in and lay eggs on the little bird's nest. So this keeps out the big birds, and the chickadees and the nuthatches have a nice little home. And that should do it. Okay, so that's one birdhouse body, and the top is about 1 inch thick. I'll cut another little piece of bowl and make a little kind of a hat on here, a little roof on it. The roof is not really required for the birds because it's got a solid top on here. But sometimes the people that see it, they like to see a little bit of a roof on there. It's more for people and looks than it is for the birds. But so that's what we'll do. And like I say, I just make a plug that fits in here, and I drill a few holes in the plug so that if there ever is any water buildup from rainstorms and whatever, it has adequate drainage. And I've also been told that by having a few holes in there, the air circulation can actually benefit the birds. When you think about it, in a natural tree, they'll go in and they'll just have a cavity in the tree. There's likely no drainage and there's no ventilation, and the birds still survive. So if I put a little bit of ventilation, a little bit of drainage in it, if it's too much ventilation, what I found is that they build their nest and plug the holes anyhow. So yeah, that's basically it. Put a couple of screws in here with an eye hook, and you can hang it in a tree, and the birds love them. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next one. Okay, so we're back. Went over to the bandsaw, cut this a little bit more square, got rid of some of the checks. Still got a little bit of checking, but I don't think it'll be too bad. Now I need to just relocate the center on here. So how I quickly do that is I just use my dividers to try and get a rough idea where center is on the mass of wood. And I know it'll never be perfect, but that's about roughly center there, center there. So that should be pretty close to where I should put the center on. I still have the marks on the other end where the square or the spur drive is going. Line that up there. That's not so bad. That's going to run fairly true. It'll be a little bit off balance, but that's okay. I'll just have to be careful when I'm hollowing it that it'll be thin on this side, a little thicker on this side, but it won't be a big deal. And if I really wanted to, I guess I could take the outside and turn it round and make it a perfect cylinder. Might even consider doing that here once I get a little further on. Okay, so there's another birdhouse done. We'll just pop it off the chuck here and we'll just take a look and see what it looks like. Okay, there we go. 1.1/16 or 1.1/8 hole is what I put in this one. As you can see, the inside edge has got a little bit of roughness to it. It's not a big deal. The holes in there, there's about a 3/4 of an inch of clearance on the top. There's about that much wood solid. I'm going to take the tenon off on the bandsaw and then I'll put another cap on here just to make it look like a roof. The birds don't care, but the people that see it with a little roof on it, they'll think it's a birdhouse, but the birds really don't care because this is solid wood across the top. Purposely I never put a perch on my birdhouses because the indigenous birds around here, the chickadees and nuthatches, the small birds that I like to give a leg up to, they don't need a perch. The carnivorous birds and the squirrels and the other things that would try and get in there and upset the little birds, they would like a perch so that they can work on the hole and try and get in at the babies. So I never put a perch on my birdhouses, and that's the reason why. Thanks a lot for watching.